Hello everybody, hope you all are having a good week. This is the Merschman Seeds Ag Weather Outlook for November 11th, 2017. You know, now that we're into the month of November, we're getting to the middle part of the month, we're going to most likely be seeing weather a bit more like winter as in fall. Now that means a couple things. It means that temperatures will be cooler, but it also means that weather systems should become more vigorous. So we're going to have different transitions. I think there's another one later in the month of November, and then there's still another one in December when we really get into the core of winter. We're not close to that yet. We're sort of in a transition period at the current time. There are 2 or 3 of these transitions. So right now what we see is that the jet stream energy, and this is the shading of blue and green, has sunk a bit south, and that's saying that that polar vortex up in this area here has weakened. You don't see that energy up here, and that has allowed the jet stream to dip to the south, and when the polar vortex weakens, colder air is able to spread to the south. So much of the Corn Belt has experienced well below normal temperatures this week due to that weakening polar vortex. Now precipitation, you know, the eastern Corn Belt has been the area that's been the most wet for a while now. You can see a very soaking rainfall of 2 inches or more over southern Indiana, large parts of Ohio where it's been fairly wet. Further off to the west, a pretty quiet week, some light showers here and there, and some snow in the upper Midwest, some significant snow in spots. Matter of fact, you can see earlier in the week we had some light snow in these areas here. This is just light snow over scattered areas in Nebraska, South Dakota, and parts of North Dakota. But over the last 3 days, some more significant snow. We have that winds blowing across Lake Superior, so lee side snow, 6 inches right on the boundary here, or the southern edge of Lake Michigan. So we still have some snow on the ground. You can see that right here. The more significant snow is over northern, maybe third of North Dakota and the northern third of Minnesota. Now you can see that lee snow. Look at this, lee side snow. Look right here, right here, right here, even a little bit right in here. So that's typical this time of year. The lakes have not frozen yet, and you are getting the winds blowing off there. They pick up that moisture. We get snow on the lee side of the lakes. I wanted to show you the last 30 days, the number of rain days. Areas in that more solid green is indicating about half of the last days in the last 30 days there was a measured rainfall. So look at parts of Michigan. Actually almost all of Michigan has been very wet. And then we get into that eastern Corn Belt, parts of Indiana. You can see that darker green, and look at how much of Ohio. Those are areas that we've seen not necessarily a lot of rain, although in this case that's probably true, not necessarily extreme rain, but definitely a lot of light to moderate rain days in those areas. On the other hand, let's go a little bit further west. Good parts of Missouri, Iowa, and the western Corn Belt, shades of brown, very few days of rain in those areas. But I think the big story this week was really the colder air sinking in over parts of the Midwest. You can see the upper Midwest with that snow and just overall colder air, 15 to 20 degrees below normal. The core of the Corn Belt, that blue or green area, 5 to 10 degrees, 5 to 15 I should say. Then as we get a little bit off to the eastern Corn Belt, not as much, fairly close to normal one way or the other. So soils are fairly wet in areas of green here, primarily the eastern Corn Belt from some recent precipitation, but also parts of the central Corn Belt from some past precipitation. Now let's get into the forecast. Well, this week, really the story is going to be as we get into November, we're going to have quite a few fronts going to be moving through. Most of these fronts are going to be weak, so the rainfall potential is not necessarily high or snow, but it's going to have some changes in temperature. So this week what we see here is we see the polar vortex up in this region sort of getting a little bit stronger again, so that might be saying some of the colder is going to be retreating. We have this area of high pressure, and that's trying to push a ridge of high pressure in the southwest U.S., and that's going to warm up things in that area. But I think really most of the region, Midwest, is going to still be lingering in that cool air, especially over the next 5 days over the eastern Corn Belt and the upper Midwest. Now, if you're in the western Corn Belt, particularly parts of Kansas, Nebraska, western Missouri, western Iowa, you'll start feeling a little bit of that influence of that high pressure and some moderation in temperature. Now this week could be fairly similar to last week as far as precipitation. Eastern Corn Belt looks like a soaking rain in spots, maybe not as much as last week, but still a half inch to even an inch. Localized, a little bit heavier than that in spots from Illinois eastward. From Illinois, Wisconsin westward, a fairly quiet week. But I did want to show you, this is Wednesday, we do have a number of fronts passing through. Here's one, here's one. So every 3 days, and in between those cold fronts, temperatures moderate. Behind those cold fronts, it gets colder. Now, there'll be enough cold air to bring some heavier snow over parts of Minnesota and northern Wisconsin and northern Michigan. A little bit will come earlier this week, and then later this week, maybe some heavier snow. Now we get into the period 16th through the 21st of November, and what do we see? Well, not a whole lot of change. That high pressure over the south central U.S. is pushing up a bit to the north, and it's going to give above normal temperatures over the western Corn Belt, pushing a little bit further east. So now the central Corn Belt in the 6 to 10 day range, temperatures get back to normal or a bit above normal. So everything sort of moderates a bit in the 6 to 10 day range. Then as we get into the 11 to 15 day range, the 21st to 26th, late November, right now, every one of these little waves in the jet stream is going to be represented by a front on the Earth's surface, and that looks like perhaps another cool down. So I think what I'm trying to say here, for the next 15 days, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe 3 to 4 cold fronts pass through. Each one will bring temperatures down a bit, and then in between we're going to have that impact in maybe the 6 to 10 day range of that ridge of high pressure with warmer temperatures. So expect to see quite a bit of change in temperature, alternating back and forth right into the end of the month of November. As far as precipitation, I think I talked about it this week, mainly the eastern Corn Belt from Wisconsin, Illinois on to the east, chance of near to above normal precipitation. And right now models are showing for week 2 pretty much dry over a large part of the area, nothing significant seen at this time. But I do think with these fronts passing through, that does not mean it's going to be completely dry. There will be some rain and snow in the farther northern areas during that week 2. So anyway, I think I covered the forecast here. Quite a few temperature swings, modest eastern Corn Belt rainfall this week, some heavier snow in the upper Midwest, and some isolated spots. Hope everybody's having a good week. You know, I know there's a few areas still. We're trying to get some harvest operations done. Hopefully the weather's cooperating. It looks like the eastern Corn Belt is going to be the area where the most problems will be, not just last week, but over the next week. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me, John, John, @BlueWaterOutlook.com. Have a great week.